Oh man. Okay. So a couple of things really quick as I move some stuff around here. I want to make sure that the sound is good. Sometimes you're doing stuff and you're just not sure about the sound, but I don't want to waste any time with my foolery. So I'm going to play some intro music and then we are going to we're going to get right into it. Good afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm having a moment. Don't hate on me. Okay, I'm having a moment right now. I'm just gonna be okay. But I am Gwendolyn G.R. Houston Jack. Welcome to Girl Listen. And we are streaming live to LinkedIn and YouTube because it's just a better experience. And I don't want to waste any time because I want to make sure that we have enough time to get to this topic. So I'm going to bring our guest on here. Hold on. I'm coming. There we go. Miss Elise, how are you? Oh. Perhaps.
I had my mute on.
Try it again.
I had my mute on.
There it is. Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. I want to make sure.
Yes, good evening. I'm doing well.
Right. On your side of town. Good evening. So let me do some introductions first because I want people to know who you are and why I invited you on the stage to talk about it. And I want to make sure that we also shout out our community here as they're coming in. Hey, Danny, thank you for tuning in this afternoon. And I also want to hear people's thoughts about this because I am seeing more and more videos, posts about it, some articles, but the question of the hour is, what are your thoughts about Project 2025? If you don't know what it is, say that too. Say that as well. We are here to give you some information because this is some serious stuff. So before I get into it, Ms. Elise, and I'm old school, so I'm gonna call you Miss Elise because I'm proper.
I understand.
My ma'am, who are you?
So who am I? I am, I would say I'm a nurturer. I am a giver of knowledge and a learner. I'm a lifetime learner. That's my biggest thing. I'm a lifetime learner and like to share information. I'm an educator. I'm retired, but I'm still educating. So I'm an educator and just a lover of people and a supporter of people. That's who I am at my core.
I will say that I have been influenced by your education, your lessons. So just know if no one's told you were touching people, that part matters. If you touch just one, that's all that matters, right?
Absolutely.
Much more than that. So I'm really excited to have you here and to have this conversation. Shout out to Ma L, who is also tuning in. She's in your neck of the woods. Shout out to Mary. And I want to jump right in it because I'm a movie person. And so I find myself sometimes quoting movies to get people to understand something. And Twister happens to be one of my favorite movies. I have a thing about tornadoes.
One of my favorites as well.
So if you recall the scene where they're at the drive-in and the TV and stuff is acting up and Dusty says, Joe, Bill, it's coming. And he's like, it's already here. That is Project 2025, people. Okay?
Yes.
That is it. The policies, the bills, the things you're seeing happening right here, right now is from this playbook. So this is not if they don't get in, it's not going to happen. That is not the case. That is not it. It's already happening. So I want to make sure that is clear. Today's topic, we're talking about Black Lives Matter. And do they matter under Project 2025? That is the question on the table. So I want to take a couple of minutes really quick to talk about Black Lives Matter, because it's been 4 years. And
Yes.
I don't know about you guys, but in 2020, there was a lot going on. A lot. And oh God, please give me all the wisdom to say the right thing. We have a thing here in our country that we like to jump on a bandwagon when an issue is in vogue. And at the time, the Black Lives Matter movement was in vogue. Would you agree or disagree, Miss Elise?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It was in vogue. That was George Floyd happened. So it was in vogue to say, we're going to do all these things for Black people, from corporations on down. Everyone was saying it. Everyone was talking about Black Lives Matter and what they're going to do for the Black people.
It was a lot.
With the words, and the slogan was painted on streets. It was we had all types of people who are professed to be allies at the time. Mm-hmm. So that was it. I mean, corporations started diversity programs, doing diversity, hiring people and whole teams to work on diversity issues in the tech world, in every industry.
Every industry. So this is why I love bringing Miss Elise here, because without her knowing, she just knows how to match my segues. So let's talk about that 4 years ago, right? Because there was a lot of promise. $67 billion were pledged to support Black communities, but by 2021, only $652 million had been dispersed. And we're not going to talk about the fact that there were all of these pledges and commitment to DEI, and as you mentioned, getting an executive workforce, getting Black representation. And where is it now?
Ooh, so I do have a little bit of insight on that as well, because I have children who have worked with Meta, formerly Facebook, and worked with Amazon as well. And within the last year, Amazon, I know, has totally got rid of that division that was handling diversity issues. The ones who were putting on all the programs and who was making sure they looked at how people were hired. They got rid of that last year, actually. They got rid of that whole office. Disappeared. Much like you have colleges and universities who are disbanding places, especially in a lot of the public universities in red states. So these corporations have actually gotten rid of those offices. Some people transition to something else, and some of them just no longer have jobs.
Yes. Yeah, I know at UT Austin, they were UT Austin, and even down there, well, as you mentioned, a lot of the public schools and colleges just wiped out the entire department as if, okay, well, we're over that. We're over it. As they say, slavery happened like 400 years ago. Aren't y'all over that yet? Okay.
Yeah, they always have a response for that. So let's not talk about slavery. Let's talk about everything after that.
Right.
Let's talk about everything after you got rid of Reconstruction era policies and Jim Crow came. We can talk about everything from Jim Crow until now, and still talk about the inequities that exist. So we don't have to talk about that. We can talk about all the other things. We can talk about lynchings. We can talk about a lot of things, a plethora of things that happened since then and within less than 100 years.
Yes, less, because it's not like, and I mentioned it on Ron's show, and shout out. Okay, so shout out to Ron for being in the audience. Hello to you, sir. Danny also says she loves Twister. That's a great movie. Bryson is here as well. Hello, nice to have you here. And as Ron mentioned, there were allies of convenience. Yes.
Absolutely.
People have gone really silent real fast. And shout out to my mama, who's always in the crowd. Mama gonna show up for her kids.
Hello, Mama.
So when I got to thinking, and I'm looking at Project 2025, and the question again, people, the question of the hour is, what are your thoughts on it? If you know about it, put your thoughts in the comments. I'd really love to know. If you've never heard of it, or you've only seen like a couple of things and you have questions, put that out there too. But it's the mandate for leadership. And I will say this really quick. You can get a free copy of it. Please. Okay, well, let me not influence you. But if you don't support their foolishness, don't give them your money. Okay?
Absolutely.
Just download the free PDF. And it's about 1,000 pages. And this is the conservative promise. This is their transition program, right? It's 1,000 pages. Now, I had to really get myself together to figure out what parts I wanted to focus on.
Okay.
Because just going through it was insane. I definitely focused on how it impacts women. So I want to tell you all right now, because I feel some kind of way about that, as I should. This is going to be talked about. I am looking at their idea of family. I'm going to talk about education, but I want to start with this one. And Ms. Elise, I know you know about this because you bring it up to say, hey, I need you guys to understand. But they talk about how they want to delete the term sexual orientation, gender identity, diversity, equity, inclusion, gender equality, gender equity, gender awareness, gender sensitive, abortion, reproductive health, reproductive rights, and any other term that deprives Americans of their First Amendment rights. Okay. Now, I don't know where I'm supposed to fit in when you try to erase everything out of the book. Right.
And the part that, like, at the end, when you talk about erasing where, they're talking about out of contracts and everything. So when you look at that part, and
every federal rule,
contract
regulation, contract grant, regulation, and piece of legislation that exists. Yes.
And so people need to understand what it says. And I always my point is always this: if you are a woman, and that includes white women, when they mention gender, they're not talking about people who want to identify differently than what they were labeled at birth. They're talking about you specifically. So they talk about, and later on in the document, as you said, there's some specific things around women. And so they're talking about anyone that's a non-white male, European white male, because some people feel they're white and they're not European.
Yes.
So that's what they're specifically talking about. And when they talk about taking it from grants and contracts, which is the whole attack on the Fearless Fund, that's where that's coming from. And so they want to take all of that out of every document, so that it doesn't matter if you're a minority business, because you'll have minority contracts and minority business. There were some requirements around that. What that would do is erase that. You won't have that access that you currently have.
So when people talk about the Fearless Fund, and many have said, but it's a grant, I don't understand. We're going to say it again. They're doing everything in this playbook today. They're not waiting for tomorrow. They're not waiting about the election in November. These folks, they play the long game. It's been a very long game at that. So they're putting things into action right now. I know we have seen just in the last couple of weeks, tossing the Bible into the classrooms, the 10 Commandments. Oklahoma wants you to teach it.
Right.
This is not coming from out of left field.
And it's coming out of left field. But even when you talk about why I pointed that out a couple of weeks ago, that page, bottom of page 4 and page 5, at top of page 5, is that it specifically says grants and contracts. I want you to pay attention to the fact it says both. And when they get you further in the document, you'll realize that they're not only talking about government grants and contracts, they're talking about private industry as well, because Fearless Fund is private. So they're also coming after private concerns as well, and specifically things that are, and I'll say it, things that are specifically mentioning Black Americans or Black. They're coming after those things specifically as far as the race component. And of course, they'll come after other groups as well. There's also documentation information in there about Latino groups, the Hispanic population as well. So it's not just us. It's anyone that's not non-white male.
So let's sit here for a moment really quick, because we know why the Fearless Fund exists. We know that in terms of venture capitalists, we get 0.6%?
No, so with that, so the part for women of color is 0.34. Within that percentage, the fund for Black women is even smaller. So we're talking about less than. Everyone always say 1%, less than half of a percent. Less than
so you have this young woman who says, you know what, I'm gonna pull together some funds and support those who want to do And somebody says, well, look, we can't have that. we can't even have that.
Yeah.
So I know when people think about, well, just how bad could this be? And I don't want to use the word bad. Bad is not the right word. This is literally erasing what few advances women have made, persons of color have made, and it is tearing down what we know life to be right now in America. It's catastrophic. That's the correct word.
Absolutely.
Catastrophic.
And, to know that most of this is being spearheaded by Ed Bloom. I don't think it's any harm in saying who is spearheading. I think that we have to let people know, and the organization that he's attached to. So it's being spearheaded that way. And what opened the door was how the Supreme Court ruled. And he's the one that helped bring it to the Supreme Court around affirmative action in higher education. So he's taken that and going off on anything that mentions race. And so his target at this point is this Black woman founded organization. And we also have to understand that as they push, the ruling that came against the Phyllis Fund recently, two of those justices were appointed by the past president.
Yes.
And so that's why we have to really focus on how we vote, because they got there because of how people voted or did not vote in 2016.
Did not vote.
Right.
So when I think about, I don't have kids of my own. I have nieces, nephews, I have my grandchildren, what have you. When people say, well, it's not going to impact me, you got to think beyond you and look at your neighbor, look at your kids and the future that you want. So I want to talk about education.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of words in there about, I'm just going to say something close to just pretty much removing the Department of Education is something similar to.
Right.
Very similar to.
Eliminated and disperse the different responsibilities to other departments.
So one of the passages, and there's a lot of people. So, it talks about giving parents the right over their kids and that schools serve parents. And if by chance you have people, state, cities, counties, school boards, union bosses, principals, teachers who do not agree with this message, they're going to cut off federal funding. Yeah. Now, I know you guys have been, well, let me not say because I don't have kids, but again, I got nieces, nephews, and whatnot in school. There's this crazy push for these charter schools and voucher programs. Have y'all guys noticed that?
Right.
Have you noticed this? It felt like the same push for private prisons, but that's a whole nother conversation there.
Yes.
But think about who gets impacted when you have the state and the cities deciding who gets funding.
Yes. And understanding that, I think a lot of people don't understand how the difference between of the voucher program and the charter piece. The charter is a public school. They just happen to have they are their own local education agencies, which means they determine some things. So, but you'll still have that pocket of the normal public schools that will exist. And so each one of these schools they can expel students without returning funding. They can do all sorts of things, right? Mm-hmm. And so you end up having maybe a system of elite schools where only certain students can get in and certain students will stay in because they will be allowed to do that. Those things will still be there. Mm-hmm. And as we talk out, there's a piece that I'll add to that when it comes to discipline.
Well, I'm from Houston, and I've been watching the very public takeover of the Houston Independent School District, which happens to be a very large Democratic county, or I should say city and an area in Texas. And their movement of taking out libraries and making these detention areas in the school for the kids who aren't, let's say, performing well or acting up. It's interesting where they're doing it, what areas that they're doing this in my opinion, is very strategic. It is not by chance that this is happening in some areas where you have really large Black populations, Black and brown populations. It's not by chance. I mean, I know also too, it talks about when you have librarians and educators who promote certain agendas, they want to have it labeled as child abuse and have them register as sex offenders. This project, this proposed plan, when people say it's just not going to happen, I hate to tell you, it's happening, and we're seeing it.
Right. And I think that's what people, and that's the part that people are missing, right? Mm-hmm. The fact that what you're seeing are I call them the testing grounds. You know, like you, I'm a big movie person. I said, there's a part in Jurassic Park when the dinosaurs test the fence to find the weakness in the fence, right?
Yeah.
So they're testing this in certain states.
Mm-hmm.
How it works. And actually part of their goal is to get it to push up to this current Supreme Court to see how they rule, so that it becomes something that you can't combat in the future. And a part that's interesting, even from the text you just read, it says parents have the right to do these things, right? Mm-hmm. But apparently only specific parents will have this right to choose and decide for the larger community of students, because that's what's been happening with the Ban the Book group, the Mothers for Liberty.
Yes.
That's what they've been doing, right? So that's the part, if you think about it, that's a piece of this puzzle as well. The Mothers for Liberty's movement to ban certain books. Mm-hmm. Then you have what's happening with Houston School District, and what happened to TSU, where they got rid of the entire board of their historically Black university in the state of Tennessee. Mm-hmm. So as you see these, they're testing all of these things already. The Fearless Fund. How far can we push that? How can we keep them from having anything specifically for them?
Yeah, this is not when I was seeing it happen, I thought, what? Like this, it was one of those where you see a car coming towards you and you're trying to avoid the accident, and you're like, it's not gonna happen, like I'm gonna swerve, and then it hits, you're like, okay, now what? This is where we are. And there's so much happening in so many places that it makes it hard for the average consumer, the average citizen, to say, okay, I'm looking over here, but now they're doing that. And now what happened? And there's so much happening at once that you get overwhelmed, and you take one or two paths, I believe. You either get energized and you're like, this can't keep going down, or you decide, you know what, what's the point?
Right, which we don't want. We don't want people to get there. We want them to be energized and figure out how we can energize them, right?
Yes.
So that's our ultimate goal.
That is our ultimate goal. We want people to get energized. And shout out to Brian, who is here. He says he's late. You're never late, sir. You're never late. But you are correct. There is that multi-pronged approach.
Absolutely.
They're getting it from all sides. There's a lot of things, and there's always been this really art of distraction. We got to stay focused.
Yeah,
I got no problems. I'm gonna get a little bit of time to some foolishness, but we gotta stay focused, right? Like, don't take your eye off the goal.
Because even the pieces that we've heard this week about what's happening with schools and religions, the 10 Commandments, the Bible in the classroom, when you dig deep into this document, there's a lot of talk about religion and religious freedoms in this country. And specifically, we know we're talking about Christian religion. So we're not talking, they didn't say we're going to put all religious books in the classroom. They're just talking about one particular book. And so a lot of that's covered in there, and understanding that 60% of these private schools are religious schools, Christian, mostly Christian. Mm-hmm. So understand that that's what it is. And they're talking about private and public schools and how money is disseminated, and block grants, and understand how block grants work. The state and local government at that point that you elect or don't elect will be the ones deciding where the money flows. Mm-hmm. And we saw that in Jackson, down in Jackson, Mississippi. Mm-hmm.
We're just getting started. And I say this again, this is about 1,000 pages, people.
It's long.
Okay. So when I went through and made my slides, trust me, it took all of me to pick out what part I want to dig into. And even what we're digging into are just little passages out of a bigger section, because they go over each department. Like, this is not just this is deep.
Absolutely.
It is deep. It's almost as if you want to have like a study group, and like everybody takes a section and dissect and kind of work it out, and like you do it in parts. It's that detailed.
Right.
But we didn't even discuss they have a database with worker bees ready to take over.
Oh yeah.
When they win in November. Like
they're screening their people now. They're already recruiting people now, having them go through training. And they have, with the Department of Education specifically, you know, how they're breaking it apart. So say the part that deals with indigenous people. Well, that goes to the Department of Interior. Let us shift that over there. We want to treat military families and children like this, so we'll shift that over there. So everything is being shifted and pulled apart. So everything is pulled apart. And when it comes to, and there's data that they've said they don't want you to keep anymore. So they don't want you to keep the data that will talk about the disparities in discipline, the racial disparities specifically. So they don't want that to be in there. They want you to stop collecting that data so that you won't have that information to put out there. So there's all of this in this document. And as you say, each section is huge. Like a couple of jars of moonshine. Forget the wine. A couple of jars of moonshine to get through some of this foolishness. Ron says soon they will say you can only use the Trump Bible. Oh, don't go there, Ron. Don't do it. Please don't. But I would put it back.
Oh, there's the what's that? A reformation period. Okay. I see it. So
and so like and part of this, maybe people can look at some of the titles that they talk about. So title 6, title 4, title 7, look at some of those things and find out specifically what they address. And you'll find that most of them are about collecting information around discrimination, racial discrimination, and how they don't want you to collect that data, how they're going to instruct the agencies not to keep that data anymore. So you won't be able to say, you know, Black and Hispanic children were disproportionately disciplined in schools over in Mississippi, because they're not going to let you keep the data to be able to monitor that.
Yep, you won't have it. Have it. I will say this as we're going through it. When you look at it, and I know people have been talking about the candidates and things of that nature, you got really one question to ask and say, how does this impact me and what do I believe in? If you read it, like if I just read a piece, you think, oh my God, that sounds amazing. You got to read the whole thing and then ask yourself, where do I fit in? So can we talk about family?
Yes.
When we talk about the Department of Human and Health Services, right? And so it's talking about how they want to get back to really supporting families, and it's focused on a mother and a father in the home. They want to really bring back these good Christian values, and I'm trying to be careful here. But let me not be careful. Hold on. I'm gonna bring it back. Hold on. I want to make sure we're clear here. It says that they're really focused on, truly, this is not about you. They focused on the white population and how they are losing, right? 7% of their expected life after COVID. So all of these policies, I'm gonna go ahead and call it. It ain't about people of color.
Right.
That's just what it is. It ain't about us.
Absolutely. It's not about us, and it's not for us.
It's not for us. This whole attack on abortion is not about me. They could care less about me. And I was telling Ron earlier about my grandmother. And my mama's mom was a little gully. She was gully. I know people are like, but your mother's a minister. She was gully too. So I'm gonna go ahead and say it. But when you think about marriages then, and some of the abuse that may have occurred in those marriages, there wasn't much care for women who looked like me. Care less. It's like, okay, well, that's just them. So we're not gonna worry about them. Right. This book is written with a very specific family in mind. And it may be hurtful to hear it, but it ain't about Black and brown families. Yeah, it's not. Now, Miss Elise, you have read, was that Warmth? Was it Warmth Under Other Suns? Warmth Under the Sun?
And Cast.
Yes, and Cast, right? And so the Warmth is about the migration, the Black migration.
Yes, the Black migration, yeah.
And if you think about the life we had when we didn't have access, because we only had each other, You had a
Yeah.
Black doctor, you went to Black schools, Black, shops, and you had your Black Wall Streets and everything else. Like we were here, we were one. And I'm gonna say as one could be, because you're never really all on the same page. Let's just, because we're all
Right.
individuals.
True.
Then you open up the floodgates and the migration starts. And in my opinion, and I don't mind saying it, a lot of us, and I'm talking in, just, big terms here. A lot of us got a little bit of, and I said before, comfort.
Yes.
We got a little bit of the feel of being in this neighborhood and going to this school. And we got lackadaisical.
Yes.
Lackadaisical.
We started feeling like we've made it, we've arrived, right? That's how we felt.
Made it.
And we got complacent. We started
Yes.
not paying attention to things that were happening around us. We didn't think about all of the things that were still happening or not happening in the community, right? So we started doing those things. So we got very complacent, and we just stopped participating the way we used to. Because there was, I had my aunt, one of my mother's sisters just passed last year. She was 80, I think she was 84. Every year we were talking about, okay, she said, I'm voting. They would be the first, she and her sister were the first ones to go vote in Tuskegee. They were voting. But we got so to the point where, and we started believing that our votes didn't matter.
Yes.
We started buying into that. We started buying into so much untruth about ourselves that we stopped doing what we needed to do. So we became too complacent. We became too comfortable. We made a couple of dollars, so you figured, okay, so we arrived. And so that's the whole thing. But even with the caste system, that's what it's about. So you have Black billionaires, and we Black billionaires, but guess what? You're still Black.
Still Black.
You're still gonna treat it that way. You will be used to accomplish a goal, but you will be reminded who you are and how you do. And so
funny enough, I have in my memory box a button from when Jesse Jackson ran for president. I still have one. I still have one of those Keep Hope Alive buttons, right? And I was telling Ron earlier that, when I was growing up, we had leaders, whether you agreed or not, you saw them. So Jesse Jackson, Minister Farrakhan, Al Sharpton, like you had these people that you saw on a consistent basis, always on TV or someplace fighting for or standing up for or doing something. And then somewhere along the line, we replaced these leaders with and I'm going to put in air quotes, these Black celebrities.
Right.
And we just went to this place. Well, things are actually pretty good, people. I don't know why y'all complaining. Like, you got this, you got that. Or when you see the consistent police brutality, which has not changed,
right?
You can say, well, if you just did what they asked you to do, if you just followed the, like if you just,
and when you do, you still get harmed, right?
You still
We've
get
seen
harmed.
them sit with their hands on the steering wheel. They move a little bit. They comply with what they've been asked to do, and still get shot. Castile was a primary example of that. He got killed by the police officer. He complied. He did what he was supposed to do. He even said, "Hey, I have this. I want to let you know, so we wouldn't have a problem." As soon as that happened, he got murdered. Right. So what we tend to do, this is something that we have to realize. People can be bought. People can be bought. They have been infiltrating organizations, Black organizations, since the beginning of time, right? Somebody turned Nat Turner in. That's why he ended up dead, right? Someone infiltrated the Black Panther organization. That's how Fred Hampton got killed, even though he didn't do anything. There are all these infiltrations, right? And so they use those people, and there's always someone willing to be used. It's just that now we see them so elevated in social media. So you have these quote unquote celebrities out here being elevated and pumped up and getting payoffs in the sense of, so my cousin Ray got in trouble. So if I help you, you're gonna pardon him. So they're still getting bought off, right? So that's what we're dealing with. So that's what happens with the unity, and that's how we become we're not unified, because it becomes, and we bought into the idea of individualism.
Yes.
To that.
Yeah. Okay. So before because I want to take a quick. I know we do these little rabbit holes, Ms.
Oh,
Elise. It's going to be
absolutely. We're
okay.
not going to do that with rabbit hole.
Brian says, everyone, please read. And I do. You don't have to take our word for it. Trust. You can download this PDF on their website. You can dig it for yourself. Trust me. But when you get into the nitty gritty, you got to ask yourself, okay, how is this going to play out? Because you got to know when you put people in, and I want to say, and I got it in here, I want to say our previous president put in like 226 judges, not mistaken. I'll check that number. Mm-hmm. This is not like, oh, it's just 4 years to go away. That is not how life works. Yeah. Trust and believe that is not it. That is not how that works. Brian also says not to mention the words they want to ban. These are just words.
Absolutely.
These are just words, people. Like, remove all of it. So keep in mind, this is a big thing. So if I can take this quick little side note, because I was talking with, I want to say Ron, because I'm always running my podcast ideas around him. I was trying to figure out, how do we get to this place of a lack of physical community? Because my childhood, and I, again, Lord bless, if I will be 49 years young in September, but I remember being able to go to the neighbor's house and literally borrow cups of sugar, a couple of eggs. We were able to borrow ingredients. I remember being on the street. Mrs. Pat would say something. Mrs. Rockamore would say something. Everybody looked out for that other person's child. It really was a village.
Right.
You just couldn't go places and act up.
Yeah, so that's where telling everyone they have to look out for their own. That's when that part came into being, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to look out for you and your child, you and your household. You can't look at everyone, because our unity is what held us together. And so they had to break that apart. And so we bought into, I can only look after my child. I can only look after this. And no, you can't talk to my child anymore. When I grew up, I was the block babysitter. I sat on the porch and I babysat everybody's child on my end of the block. That's what, and the mothers would be inside. The mothers and fathers would have to do their work, whatever they were doing. They knew I was going to be there. And no, and they never said anything of a child said, you know what happened? This is what, and they said, what did you do? And now it's like, you can't touch my child and you can't do this. And that's where we started to lose our connectedness. When we allowed ourselves to think about the individualism and the whole idea of understanding that when schools were desegregated, a lot around like corporal punishment and things went out because they didn't want Black teachers to be able to discipline their children that way. So it became what you could and couldn't do with my child. And so we bought into that idea of individualism. And that's when we started to fall apart, because we had to be united to survive. And that idea of, we made it so we don't need each other, but we do need each other.
We need each other.
When you look at immigrant communities coming in, they've set up ways to finance each other. So they collect that fund, they finance each other. We are told not to trust each other.
Yeah.
So we have lost that trust in each other.
I thought to myself, because again, I write these things down. Is it a place for us to ever get it back? I'm not saying that it's not, but I'm also like, there's so much work to be done at this point. So much work.
What I believe is that having, doing what we do now, especially with social media, is giving us a platform where we can do that. As long as we remember to stay unified. And one of the things you'll notice about that, the other side, is that if they have a fight, they're not doing it publicly. They don't destroy each other right there. They're gonna come out and be totally unified, no matter how crazy it seems. They're unified, right?
Yeah.
They'll get on and start fighting each other. And that's what they love, because as long as we fight each other, we can be defeated.
Yes.
And so until we understand that how we're using our platforms, how you're using it for information, how Ron uses his, how when I come on and I use mine, we're giving information. We're giving people to think. And as you said from the beginning, you're touching just as many people as I touch, as Ron touches. We're all touching people and giving them vital information and bringing people together around thought. They didn't have this information before.
Yeah.
We have to keep doing this. And other people, when you see it up there, when Gwendolyn has something that's coming out, we have to repost what we're doing and get that information out. So we all start bringing that, because it's up to us to create the community we feel we lost. That's our job. And I think that the way we're doing it is through what we're doing right now.
That's a very good point. Thank you for that, Miss Elise. Thank you. Because you know how you don't want to go to a place of feeling defeated, which I come from a family of fighters. We gonna fight some people. Not always physically, but we gonna do some fighting. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think about my mother when she was on. I saw her one morning get up, and someone had broken glass in the street, and she got out. She got her broom and went to sweep the glass out of the street. Right, just having pride in your community and your home, and just like there's. Whew.
That's my husband right now. He does that every day. He makes sure there's no trash on our block. He does it every day, and that's that pride as well. How do we instill in that pride? Not being afraid to talk to our children. Yeah, I don't fear our children on the street. I'll talk to them if I hear them saying something or doing something. I'll talk to them. They're either going to receive it or not. And majority of the time when I've approached our young people that other people would have feared, they have actually received it and thanked me and respected me for saying what I say. So we have to stop. We have to know within ourselves how we're participating in the systemic racism.
Yeah.
Because systemic racism is not about black or white. It's not about skin tone. It's about mindset. It's about how you implement programs, about how you react to our children. So we can be guilty of that part too. So we have to also make sure that we're training and teaching each other and reaching out to adults. Please do not assume that everyone who has a child knows how to parent and parent well.
Ooh, I did talk about that as another topic too. Kids having kids. When I say, and Ron knows, I keep a notebook. I keep a notebook of topics. I was like, I'm going to get into some dust. I want to kick up some dust today.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we talk about the family, again, their whole thing is to promote stable and flourishing married families. We're not talking about the LGBTQ plus equity. We're not talking about single mothers, because they don't really talk about single fathers.
Yeah.
They are talking about married families. And they're also dipping into reproductive technologies now. I'm going to talk about reproductive health. I gotta go there, because when people mention reproductive health care, they take that out. They always go to abortion.
Absolutely.
That's where they go.
Absolutely.
They're not pro-life. They don't care. Like, once that kid get here, look, you on your own, deuces. They could care less. That's not even what it's about. Right? And let's make sure we're clear here. It's about white women having more white babies.
Absolutely. Because that is predicted by the year 2040 that they will no longer be the majority group in this country, which will also, so we'd have to watch clearly like how the idea of whiteness grew in this country. So before they were divided by groups, they were Polish, Italian, they were all these things, right? Not allowed to be white. And then, but they knew they needed numbers. So they started including them. So what other groups are they going to try to include into that and give them that idea of whiteness, which really probably won't be real, but that's one of the things they do. So by 2040, that's the prediction. And there's a book that's out of print, but I did hear about it from Jane Elliott, called The Birth Dearth. And in that book, they write about the whole idea of them not being the majority by 2040. He also says that the way to do it is to ban these abortions, but they would like to do it only for white women, but they couldn't do it because it would be seen as racist.
Yep.
Now, he wrote that in his book, but you can't find the book anymore. But Jane Elliott definitely talks about it. So it really is about them, the idea they won't people will realize they're not the majority in the world already. And they don't want that to happen, and which means they lose what? Power, control. Yeah. Which is about money, power, and control. Those are the three things that are consistent in all of this.
So, y'all ready? Y'all ready for us to get into this reproductive? Because this is it. Now, I want to shout out. I want to say a couple of things. So we're going to talk about. I have a fact sheet from U.S. Senator Patty Murray. She has this fact sheet. It's a one. You can go get it on her page. But she talks about how they're going to ban abortion, attack reproductive health care any way they can. Now we've already seen that they're coming after, and I can't ever get that Mr. Prone, Miss. I
Mr.
never
Brown.
get it right. Thank you.
But
But they're coming
Supreme Court kind of messed them up on that the other day.
They did.
Yeah.
And again, they call it the abortion pill, but people forget, if you have a miscarriage,
Yes.
this drug is used for that as well.
Right. And
Okay.
and that's a conversation I had with my next door neighbor. She and her husband are 30 something, and we were talking about all of this, and she has had a couple of miscarriages. And I told her, I said, what I need you to understand is that medication that you used, you would have access to that medication that saved your life, because you have to get the toxins out of the woman's body, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they would question you. A part of this is also, I don't know if it's written, I don't remember if I saw it in a document. So if a woman has a miscarriage, they wanted to have the right to question her as to what happened.
Yes, it is in there. It's in the same section. I don't have the numbers written down, but it's the same section where they talked about the database to track the abortions. Yes, it's all in that. Yes.
And then, the proposal that one of the female officials wanted to have, so you can track pregnancies, which means there's a violation of your HIPAA rights. So that means that they will force doctors to record that you're pregnant, so that they can track pregnant women throughout the United States. So that's also in addition to tracking abortions, but also tracking pregnancies. So they want that in that to be tracked as well.
It goes deep.
It
goes deep. This fact sheet also mentioned that there's that backdoor national-wide abortion ban, and you talked about this, Ms. Elise, that Comstock Act. And this is Jonathan Mitchell. He says, you don't need a federal ban when we have Comstock on the books, because there's a smorgasbord of options. If we can just get these pro-life people to sit down for a little bit, wait until the election, it's going to be okay. Now, you have done an eloquent job of explaining the Comstock Act.
So it's from 1873. Mm-hmm. The gentleman who introduced it was, at the time, the Postmaster General. He introduced, so it's to say things that were considered pornography. So what they're doing is broadening what pornography means. Mm-hmm. So pornography will also include things like abortion pills, contraceptives, all those things would be included, which means that you get your prescription through the mail, you'll no longer be able to get it through the mail because of the Comstock Act. And one of the things that they've gotten the former president not to talk about is a nationwide abortion ban, and that's because of the Comstock Act, because that's what they have as their backdoor piece that they're going to do. And people need to understand exactly what that means and how it's going to work. And understand that contraception, because people keep thinking, oh, IUD, birth control pills. No, they're talking about condoms too.
Yes.
So they're talking about that. They're going to fund Viagra, but they're going to cut out everything else.
Yeah, they're going to keep that flowing.
Yeah, so to understand how big this is and to really inform yourself on what their intentions are. And so that's why they haven't talked about, that's why he said, oh, no, it won't be a national ban. That's because they're looking at the Comstock Act and they're looking at individual states doing certain things. Mm-hmm. So that's what the Comstock Act is, and how you end up not being able to have access to things through the postal system. And as I reminded people before, the current person that's over the post office was appointed by him, cannot be removed by the president. It takes some act of Congress, I think, to get rid of him. And he's already slowed mail delivery by taking out some of the animation part, the automation part. So the sorting machines, some of those things he's already done. That's why I tell everybody, whatever you do, vote in person.
Yes.
They're going to slow down your ballots if you put it in mail.
You got to vote in person. Because things is... They're doing, like, I asked myself, if your vote didn't matter, why are these folks working so hard to stop you from doing it, to make it hard to do it? Mm-hmm. And why are they working so hard if it didn't matter?
And you live in Texas. If it didn't matter,
and they working overtime down
why
here.
would they work so hard to say that you have to have the majority in all of those counties? Because they know that the smaller ones are the red ones. And the larger places are where you have Dallas and Texas, mm-hmm. Houston and Austin. Those are larger than those red mm-hmm. counties. So that's why they're putting that majority in there. And how you know how, and let's not forget, the Supreme Court has recently said you can do gerrymandering based on race.
Yes. Yeah. When I say, what
Based
is
on
that? If
race.
you're not cheating, you're not trying, boy.
Yeah.
They put out all
What
the.
if you know it all out there?
For those who live in Texas, I don't know if you've seen it, but there is a proposal that in order for you to get your office, it's not going to be the popular vote, but you have to win the majority of the counties.
Yes.
And we know that our metropolitan cities are primarily Democratic and everybody else is red. And there's a lot of red counties this is a really big state. So you would never have anybody who is a Democrat ever win ever again.
Right. They wouldn't. And that's the whole point. And they know that the biggest problem they have in as far as Republican presidential candidates, they haven't been able to win the popular vote. In 2016, he didn't have the popular vote. And you know, other countries look at us and say, how is it that the person who won the most votes isn't your president? And that's because of the electoral college that we haven't gotten rid of, which we need to get rid of. And so that's a part of the problem.
So the last part of her fact sheet talks about the Department of Life and the whole of government to track abortion data. So that's on there. Cutting off life-saving care for women whose health and life is at risk. Ending IVF as we know it, which will also halt life-saving and groundbreaking medical research. And then, of course, again, stacking the courts with anti-choice extremists.
Yes.
Now, I know you're thinking, but wait, doesn't IVF help a lot of families? And IVF, first of all, is not cheap.
It's not.
You got to have some money. You coming out of your pockets, right? But when you get into the nitty gritty, it's about same-sex families and single mothers having kids. Now, I remember Murphy Brown. And I thought, you know what? If push comes to shove, I could be Murphy Brown. Okay, so I'm not that responsible. I was like, yeah, that's a no for me. But that's part of their reasoning. And they say some really awful things. I know we talked about it, that babies shouldn't be born in petri dishes.
Right.
As if that's the problem, right?
And the
like
idea of conception being life, which we know that it's not a person at that point. So at the point of conception, who measures conception? How do we know that? And so it's a big attack on that. And there's a whole health section that you need to it doesn't touch Viagra because, you know, they need that. But and that was Ron put that in there. But there's a whole health
Viagra.
The whole health section to read, and specifically how they, on one end, they say, oh, we're trying to protect women, but they're not trying to protect women at all. What they're trying to protect is to ensure, you know, they want white babies to be born, which, you know, we just have to understand that part. And then to actually control women. So the whole piece is controlling women. So if you're not married, we don't want you to have children. If you're a same-sex couple, we don't want you all to have access to children. So we don't want you all to be able to use, you know, artificial insemination, all of these different methods of conceiving, right? Yeah. So that's really the whole focus is on that part. So
now we have only touched, and this wasn't even like a snippet of what's in here. I say this again. You don't have to take my word for it or Miss Louise. This information is available out there for you. You can download it for free. You need to give yourself some time, maybe a week, because it's about 1,000 pages. And the way they detail it, and they are so specific in detail.
Very.
When I started reading and highlighting stuff on the PDF, I was like, okay, I'm done. I can't. I can't.
And like you said, there's so much we didn't get to. And when we talk about if Black Lives Matter, right? So when we look under the part about equal opportunity and the EEOC and how they want to not collect information around discrimination, racial discrimination, and how that impacts you as an employee. As a worker, that's a part of what they're coming after as well. So you won't be able to complain about it. And if you don't get a job because of your race, you won't be able to say anything because they're not going to have that data in place. You're not going to have that opportunity. And that's under Title VII. So that's protected under Civil Rights Act, Title VII. So just please read, educate yourself on how this will impact you, because if they, and I know how some people say, oh, and how they want to fool you. So to use the term colorblind is already racist.
Very, is it not?
It's already racist. There's no way we can walk outside and people not say, oh, those are black people. They're always going to say it. And anyone that says that they are, they're lying. I don't care who they are. I don't care how much of an ally they claim to be. When you say that I'm invisible to you, that's a problem.
Yeah.
In essence, that's what you're saying.
Yes.
So, and this document is specifically meant to, I should have worn my shirt that Lou Gossett has. He had an organization before he passed called Erasure and Eracism. And
I have a mug that says Eracism.
It says Eracism. Mm-hmm. And the point is to erase all evidence of you as a race. Mm-hmm. And so they want to take they want us to not have access to anything. Yes. And when we talk about education, don't get comfortable and say, we have our HBCUs. They're not protected either.
No.
They're already after Howard University's med school. They're already looking at different things. They're looking at if you have a black law, anything where you just have titles. The San Francisco organization that was put together because of black maternal and infant mortality rates. They're after them because they don't want them to say they're giving support to black people, even though that's where the problem is. You have to have it open to everyone. So they're coming after that as well. So we need to really pay attention to all of these areas: education, healthcare, women's health. Because I refuse to say anything other than women's health.
It's women's health.
Right. It's about our health and our welfare, no matter what we are. And I like the fact that they're starting to bring out the stories from these women who have had issues because of a lack of access to proper care, right? And it's about education, it's about employment, it's about small businesses. I know one of the people that follow me got into this whole thing about HB1 and they live in Texas, and that's a visa that comes in, right? So my thing is, if you are a minority, and it was a black person, so you as a black business, especially if you're an independent contractor, where you're getting access now because you're a minority business, you will not have access under this program. You will not, because you will not be able, they will not allow you to put down that's who you are.
Yeah. You can use all these attributes now, but afterwards, if some of these other policies continue the way that they're continuing, it's going to be a problem. It's already a problem.
Yeah, so when people,
I want to get to the question. Do you guys believe we should bring back segregation to protect blacks from getting their feelings hurt by white folks?
I don't know about feelings hurt.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's a feelings thing here.
Right.
I don't think there's a feelings thing. If you want to give me some more context on that one, let me know, because I don't think it's about feelings. Like that's
for me, it's nothing about feelings, because I tell you all the time, my feelings have nothing to do with this. What it has, what I feel, what we have to pay attention to, and it's not about whether it's segregated or not. Where we are, it's where we are.
Yeah.
The point is, we need to make sure we continue to have the access that we have. We need to have access to,
and that's where folks forget. Like,
right.
People get distracted by the messenger. Yes, the two vessels going up right now for this one position, which has to work with everybody, may not be like what you want to put up. But I'm gonna say this really quick. For all the talk about we need somebody younger and blah, 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 I haven't seen them. I just, like I said, I knew about Jesse, I knew about Mr. Farrakhan, and I saw Al Sharpton every other weekend. So I don't see these other people. I don't see them. And if they're not out there, then who else knows about them? Right? Like if you really want to be about it, then get out there and be about it. People need to see it.
Right.
In the ways that they find information.
Which is the way that
most of the messenger.
Right. Which is the way most of the third party people come. They come the year, like it's the election time, so we'll come out. You're not building anything. So we know you're not gonna win, but you can impact the election just like you did happened in 2016.
Yes.
For the ones that don't vote and the ones that vote for a third party candidate, you can end up with a result that you won't really want, and we won't be able to live through. Because when you talk about these justices that he what people need to understand, I want to make this real clear. So those federal justices all have lifetime appointments. I want you all to understand it's not just the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
Other justices appointed by the president have lifetime appointments. And so these individuals that are ruling against the Fearless Fund, those are federally appointed justices by the former president that are there and will be there. And if he gets back in, it's going to be even more.
It's going to be even more.
And
so you're not looking at,
right.
You're not thinking, well, it doesn't impact me and I don't understand. It's like, it impacts you in some form or fashion. Because they are talking about, if you want to put a big layman terms, dismantling everything you know,
right,
and have come to rely on.
Right.
That's where they're going. When people say, well, do you want change? And they're like, yes, I would like to vote for change. But you don't tell them what kind of change they're voting for. They are telling you what they're voting for.
Right, absolutely.
I get that it's so extreme it just couldn't happen. It is happening. Right. Recognize it. It's happening. So let's get past it'll just never is now. Because this is where we are.
And get past, I don't believe it. Yeah, believe it, because they are doing it. They are actually these states that are doing these certain things. At Bloom, all of these things are a part of what's written in 2025.
Yes.
It's all Project 2025. It's written there. They are putting it in your face. You can download it for free. You can read it. They're saying it out loud, and they're saying it out loud and proud that's what they're doing. And so it just has to be more people getting educated around that. And that's what we have to deal with. So it's not about segregation. It's about, it really is about unity, right? Our unity. You started this out talking about movies, right? I have to tell you, I'm a Trekkie.
Oh, okay. Then you're a good family.
So there's an entity that was in Star Trek called the Borg.
Yes.
It was undefeatable until, and this is going to address what we talked about earlier, until they introduced the idea of individualism. Mm-hmm. And they got one and called him Hugh, sent him back to the collective. And the collective then became confused and was able to be destroyed. So our strength is in our unity. We have to come together. We have to believe that we're creating through these platforms, through your show, Ryan's show, what I do and what other people who are doing similar work, we're creating the unity. And we're going to have to use this method that we've been given as a gift. We can ignore all the foolishness, but we are creating the unity that we need.
Yeah. And we're in the awareness stage. Again, like we are seeing more people. I know I follow U.S. Representative Ayanna Pressley and Jasmine Crockett. I follow them and they are constantly talking about it. We know Joanne Reed talks about it. You are seeing more people, again, sharing this. So if you're in your awareness stage, it's going to blow your mind.
Yes.
I'm not advocating for alcohol or anything, but I'm just saying a little thing of moonshine ain't going to hurt you because you need to strap in. You just can't believe that people have written this, but they worked as a collective. This is not just one, the Heritage Foundation. This is a collection of conservative think tanks that are telling you, this is how this should be run, and this is how this should be done, and this is what we say with blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And when I read it, I don't see me or my family in that text.
Oh, it's not. Yeah. And I think it's 100 organizations, individuals and organizations, at least 100 of them. Mm-hmm. And some of them are, they're one of a couple of women's groups in there, which are very conservative white women groups. They're individuals and, they're organizations that I think everyone, if you don't do anything else, because it is an overwhelming document.
Yes.
If you don't do anything, read the beginning pieces, especially that beginning part, read that and look at all of who is supporting, who came together to create this. I think you need to know who they are, because then sometimes you never know if that's an organization or a company because some of them have to do with legal things. So if that's someone that you're doing business with, you need to know who these people are so that you can effectively defend yourself.
The husband, he always calls. I was like, it's Friday. I know it's Friday. Hold on. Let me read these comments real quick. Okay, so this is all about white supremacy, Ron says, and taking the rights away from people of color. people of color need to wake up. He also says segregation never protected us. Remember Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma? Even when we had our own, they came and got rid of it.
Absolutely. And a part of that, the rationale, the reasoning behind that is if we were self-sufficient, we no longer need them.
Right.
So when you had they had their own towns, they had their own doctors, they had their own stores, they had their own schools, which you didn't need. When I grew up in Tuskegee, we had our schools. There was a white school someplace. We didn't go there, but we had our own schools, right? So you had all your own things. And when people talk about Black people need to do, they did. So I want you to remember Greenwood. I want you to remember Rosewood. I want you to remember all the one with the Lake Lanier down in Georgia.
I was about to say Lake Lanier in Atlanta. Yeah.
Because those were those towns where they ran in South Carolina, where the Black people were in control of the town, and they ran the government out. So they were there. And as soon as we become self-reliant, their fear is that we become self-reliant and we unify. That's their biggest fear. And they did their best to destroy everyone. So when I've had people from other countries in the African diaspora ask me, so why didn't Black Americans do this? And I said, well, let me tell you what they do. So they killed Fred Hampton. He was a 21-year-old man who found that he could unify poor white people, poor Latinos, and Black people in the city of Chicago. It didn't matter who they are. They were all coming together. So they had to eliminate him. That's what Hoover said. This organization is a threat to this country because they were unifying people. They killed, Martin Luther King got killed. Malcolm X got killed. They were always killing people who we looked up as leaders.
Yeah.
So we have to figure out, we have to walk without fear. We have to move forward without fear.
That's a great one. Brian says, in Project 2025 is what they've shared publicly. Think of the plans they are not sharing.
Yeah.
Woo!
A major part of their plan is to do what they're doing with Black men. Steve Bannon said it a couple of years ago, and there's a video of him saying it, that we need to siphon off a certain part of Black men. So they're trying to get at least a third of the Black men and siphon them off. That's there
are who is it? There were the two. Oh, I can't think of their names right now, but they're doing this travel thing where they do, I think it's like cigar and conservatives, something like that, where they're having this sort of roundtable conversation to discuss the policies for the Republican candidate and what have you. And I'm just thinking, and everybody can choose what they want to choose. I mean, and we're not saying but one way or the other. My thing is this: if you're going to do anything in terms of preservation, you better make darn sure the person that you're backing has got your back. Because this book, I'm just trying to tell you, my family's not in there. Brian says this document has been worked on and refined since the early 1980s. Convict Orange is the useful idiot they are using to implement it. Yes, it goes all the way back, people. So this is not from like just yesterday or some years or like a few years ago. They play for the long game.
Yeah, they worked. I mean, you have to realize they worked on Roe v. Wade for 50 years.
50 years.
To get to where they have now, where the Federalist Society and the Heritage Foundation could get those judges in place to overturn it. They worked on it for 50 years.
50 years.
50 years.
So hopefully, I mean, we got all your guys' comments in here, and I didn't see anybody truly answer the question of what your thoughts were on Project 2025. But if there's anything you do, you don't have to do it this weekend. Just do it sometime soon. Download it, read it, and chat with your family and friends and loved ones who are probably not aware or thinking that this just couldn't ever happen. If it seems really extreme, understand this is an extreme plan from extremists. So yes, it's going to seem extreme. But don't get swayed by, oh my goodness, what's the point? Why should I bother? Because your life and everybody else's life, it depends on. That's why you should bother.
Right. And there is a table of content so that you can look at, if you're interested in specific issues, you can go look at the table of content and go to specific issues and read that section. So there's a table of content. And what I say is, one of the things I wanted to repeat is what I said with Ron this morning. I said, what we're looking for is a leader. And what they're looking for is someone that they can lead.
Yes.
So they have put this person up there because they know they can control that person. And that's what that's what they want in place. They want someone they can control, who they say, hey, in exchange for this, you have to do that. That's what they're doing. And so we have it planned for you. You don't have to do anything, just get in there. And that's all they're doing. And maybe we need to look at who's going around and doing the conversations with conservative people who's not conservative. Who of us are doing those conversations? How are we having conversations and challenging their thinking? Because I think we can still have those conversations and without being totally disagreeable, but actually talk about points. Because I have had some with people to say, I just want you, and I stick with the facts. I don't look at anything else. I tell you what Biden has done, what this administration has done.
Yeah.
Then I remind you what didn't happen under the past administration.
Yes.
And for all of the Black people that's talking about that stimulus check, please remember that Biden also gave you $1,400 in stimulus payments when you got it. And it wasn't Donald Trump, it was the Democrats who forced it.
Right.
He didn't want to give it to you. So just remember that. It wasn't him. He didn't give you a gift. And Biden also, there was also money that came to you when Biden came in that had nothing to do with that other person. And we allow the media and people and the talking heads that are out there that look like us to overlook that particular point, that he also did some things and the child care credits. And remember, these people don't want to feed children who were born. They want to have lunch programs and breakfast programs.
Yes. Yeah. They don't, I mean, there's such care and concern for babies and the sanctity of life. And then once they get here, it's like, you just better try to figure it out. I hate to say it like that, but you have to make it that plain, because that's where we are.
As Roland Martin said, they're not pro-life. They're anti-abortion. And he says to be pro-life, you have to care about these children from the womb to the tomb.
From the womb to the
once they come out, you don't want to feed them. You don't want to give Head Start, because they want to cut that out too, because of the progress that people have made by having their children receive early childhood education. Yes. They want to take that out. They don't want to have the child tax credit. They don't want to give anything that gives a leg up to the poor people. And that's where caste comes in. And that's where white poor people have to understand, you white and poor. This is about you too. This is for the wealthy people. It's not written for you. It's written for wealthy people.
Mary says, thank you both for bringing attention and awareness to this. Project 2025 is terrifying, and we cannot allow this to become a reality. I'm trying to tell you people, you're going to see more topics like this throughout the year. I mean, I'm going to go in and out of some stuff because I have a notebook of topics, but everybody has a platform.
Yes.
So don't think that your voice doesn't matter, right? So again, talk to your loved ones, your friends, people who are like, what's the point? Let them know what's happening, not in the future, happening right now.
Right now.
Because they're doing it right now.
Right now.
And if you stay asleep, the train's going to run you over. And nothing good happens when trains run people over. That was an awful visual, but that's all I can think of.
But it's true, right? I think that one of the prime examples, if you can get people to talk about the Fearless Fund. My niece, right before I came downstairs, my niece came in to pick up a cake that I did for my great nephew. So she came in to pick it up, and I said, well, I have to go downstairs because I'm getting ready to talk about Project 2025. Now, my niece will be 55 on Tuesday. Oh, okay. She had never heard of Project 2025. I said, so I'm going to need you to read this. She'd heard about the Fearless Fund. I said it so that you can fully understand the impact. And she works for a small business, a Black-run business down there. I said, so let me put it to you this way. So if they're getting grants that are specifically for minority-owned businesses, this will impact them. So I need you to read that. I need you to not sit and be and don't assume that our people are paying attention. Like I assume when I said it, she might know, but she's not paying attention. And she's not the only one, I'm sure, in my family and your friend group that's not paying attention. And those of us who know, it's our job to make sure they know.
It is. Thank you, Brian. They only care for children in the womb, not out of it. That part. Right. We are in the awareness stages of this. It's been around for a while. So talk about it, it takes like 7 to 8 times for folks to recognize something. Keep resharing intelligent information, not foolishness. I agree with you this morning, Miss Elise. Don't share the foolishness. Anybody got time for that?
Don't recirculate those people. Do not send me.
Mm-mm.
I can't. I'm gonna respect you all's platforms. I'm not gonna call names, but do not circulate. There's some females out there and males out there. Do not recirculate their things. Don't send it to me in my DMs. Don't put it in your stories, because we're circulating propaganda.
Yes.
We're also promoting confusion.
Yes.
You say, oh, wow, if you want to vote for Biden, I don't understand. Look, because I get to choose whether or not I want to live free in a democratic society, or do I want to live under a dictatorship and have no rights? That's what I get to choose.
That's the choice.
Those are your only choices right now. So forget whatever you see and how disappointed you are that Joe Biden didn't come out swinging, sounding like Muhammad Ali, but he did answer truthfully, and he has done a lot of things for this country.
Mm-hmm.
Do not be swayed and confused by these people who, number one, don't have credentials and probably couldn't have an intelligent conversation with some of us on this line right now about Project 2025.
Right.
They're just talking heads and talking with emotions. I don't have time for emotions.
There's no feelings for people. These are black and white words.
Absolutely.
So we're going to take it as it is. I'm out of my camera view. Let me say this, Miss Elise, thank you so much for giving us your wisdom. Thank you so much. This is a great conversation. Thank everybody for sharing their thoughts in the comments. Again, we're going to have more about this. I'm going to say for the very last time, you can download it. You just put in Project 2025. You can get a free download. I wouldn't spend my money on it, but
Don't do it.
You give it your time.
Yes.
And attention. You can search for keywords if you want to. As she mentioned, you can go to certain departments to see how they would change that department. I'm all for change, but I don't want to lose my right to vote and to live the way I'm currently living. That is not up for discussion. Like we're not doing that. We're not doing it.
And see the racism in it, where they want to erase you, where they want to erase people who look like us. It's in there. They want to get rid of that. They don't, everything you've gained, they want to destroy.
So for people who may want to connect with you and see more of your messages, Miss Elise, how can people find you?
So they can find me on my Instagram page, which is my first name _ So it's SALIEZE _ on Instagram. And that's where
we'll be sure to put it in the description too. I can't get my words out. We'll put it in the description as well. Everybody have a safe weekend. And well, hey, if you're part of the Indie Suit Media family, you can find us this evening at 7:30 Central. Nope, 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central. Season 2 of my show is going to be on tonight. I forgot, it's like it's Friday. It's just so much going on. What can I tell you? Thank you all for tuning in.
I want to thank you as well before we leave. Thank you for reaching out and including me in this conversation.
Ma'am, we could talk about some stuff.
Yes, we could. There's so much to talk about.
There's a very good chance we'll have you come back before, probably before maybe August, because people need to know. We're in our awareness stage. A lot of folks are just picking up the details about this, and they're just trying to wrap their arms around it. So trust, we're going to have more conversations, and just don't get tired of me talking about it, because you need to know about it and you need to get out and vote.
Oh, absolutely.
Somebody with you. Take 3-4 people with you. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Enjoy your weekend.
All right.
Thank you for watching another episode of Girl, Listen. Be sure to tune in every other Friday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we also invite you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.